I was asked to record a video for the 25th anniversary of Bonsai Empire. It made me feel very old. But congratulations, Oscar, for all your efforts in bringing bonsai to a wider audience and staying relevant over such a long time. So the format for the videos is Ask the Expert, and I was chosen as one of those. So it's always nice to be considered as such. So thank you very much for that. Now the question I've been asked is in part due to my own personal kind of areas of interest in bonsai, and also due to my studies back in Japan way back when. I apprenticed under Kobayashi Kunio at the Shunkai Bonsai Museum, which prides itself in its kind of capacity for bonsai display, and I did a lot of that during my apprenticeship, so this question is appropriate. And the question is, it's quite a long one, getting a tree show ready is a different mindset and look than just growing a bonsai. There is less information about pot display and tree combination. Next to that, there seems to be strict rules. For example, Shohin exhibition about how to display. Why are these rules so strict? Should a bit of flexibility be allowed? And next to that, what would your advice be to get an epic display? So there are multiple questions in there, and there's quite a lot to unpack. There's lots of ideas and threads that can be discussed into quite a lot of depth. But I've been asked to keep it brief, which is difficult for me. So I'll try and keep it fairly straightforward and generalised. Now the different mindset that's mentioned in the question is looking at the tree from an artistic perspective. Okay, not as a horticultural object, but as an artistic object. Okay, looking at bonsai and its display as an art form. Okay, and how all of the objects that we use in a display relate to each other in an artistic way. Okay, I really dislike the word rules because there are very few actual rules in bonsai other than you must water it. There are conventions. And these are things that most people tend to do and most people tend to think work. Okay. Individual exhibitions may have their entry requirements, what they expect to see, what they expect to have in a display, and there could be some kind of like practical considerations to do with the location, such as like you're not able to hang a scroll up and things like that. But there are no bonsai police that exist that kind of like go around and say this is or isn't bonsai, or this is or isn't a valid display. Okay. Is it a successful display or is it a less successful display? People are entitled to their individual opinions, but what we tend to see in the bonsai community is this kind of like collective understanding as to what works and what doesn't. Okay. And these conventions are based on fundamental sort of design and artistic principles that are applicable across many, many different art forms. Okay. In Japan, bonsai isn't organised into schools that dictate style and practice, like say Ikebana or tea does. Where certain criteria have to be met for it to be considered as part of that style. So an Ikebono display or a Sogetsu arrangement have got certain criteria. Around bonsai, these sort of conventions have just sort of come about through like 100 years of practice and what people sort of determined to work and what didn't work. But really the standard idea, the basic fundamental principle behind bonsai displays, to put together an arrangement of objects that will highlight and amplify the character of the tree and allow the viewer to feel something, to see something which is kind of like more than just the objects that they and their form in front of them. So for example, a good example of this is a cascade style tree, which is usually always placed on a high table to accentuate the movement of the trunk, the movement of the branches, the space beneath them, and to give the impression that it's growing off a mountainside or a cliff. If that was placed on a very low table, the branch would hit the ground, and the beauty of that tree, the beauty of that style would be lost. Okay? The opposite is true. Imagine you've got like a broom style zelkova, elegant, lots of beautiful branching, delicate twigs. Okay, if you put that on a very tall stand with lots of ornate decorative features, okay, then the tree is going to lose out to the power of the stand. And the beauty of that tree, the subtle beauty of all the delicate twigs gets lost. Okay. Similarly, the same is true for pots. Okay. The general convention is that conifers go into unglazed pots, deciduous trees go into glazed pots, powerful trunks go into sort of big, deeper pots, angular pots with decorative features, and thin trunk trees go into irregular, round, softer pots. Okay. That's not a rule, but it's an aesthetic convention that 95% of the time works very well because it creates a balance between the pot and the tree which complement each other in terms of size, power, space, colour, texture, feel, all of these kind of things. And with bonsai, neither the tree nor the pot should overly dominate the combined image. Okay? And these conventions have come about from trial and error and what most people consider to work. Okay. However, it doesn't always have to be the case, and in some situations contrasting images can work. So can deciduous trees be placed into unglazed pots? Absolutely. Should all deciduous trees be placed into unglazed pots? Absolutely not. Okay. The same is true for conifers. Can they be put into glazed pots? Absolutely. Okay. You get the idea. Okay. The issue isn't really like the conventions themselves, but rather people's approach to them and people's inability to sort of see them for what they are. Okay. Some people approach them and just dismiss them outright, boring, traditional, strict. Okay. Other people will see anything that isn't traditional or orthodox and just say it's wrong, simply because it doesn't fit the standard pattern. Okay. If you see a pine, a big powerful pine in an irregular glazed pot, and immediately dismiss it without actually looking at it and say, does this work? How does this make me feel and why? Okay, then you're not looking at it as an artistic object. You're just looking at a checklist and trying to categorize it. Okay, it might not work. Okay, but 5% of the cases where it does work, it amplifies the character of that tree and sends it to a higher level. Ultimately, kind of like the question to sort of look at and to ask is, does the pot choice, the table choice, the display choice, do all of these things work together to accentuate the character of the tree and to give the impression of some place, something, some idea or some feeling that is larger than is in front of you? Okay. The other aspect to this discussion is sort of subjectivity. Okay, so I like music, particularly sort of guitar-based indie music from the 80s and the 90s. I like shoegaze, 60s soul, some ethereal kind of electronic music. Just because I like music doesn't mean I like all music or have to enjoy all music. I mean, like K-pop. I mean, it's massively popular, but it's not my cup of tea. Classical music. Some of the bangers are amazing, but like all the nuances and intricacies of it, sort of, I don't understand. And the same is true for bonsai. You don't have to like every single tree that you see, or display, or tree and pot combination. But those that are truly great and put together in an artistic way will stand out even if they're presented in a completely different or radical style. One where the character of the tree is amplified, even if the pot choice is unorthodox. The point about showing display is one which kind of requires a different viewpoint, different ideas. The rules or conventions about sort of showing display have only really come about in the last sort of 50 years, and the modern method of display is kind of based around a set of ideas and conventions that will allow for the full beauty and variety of Shohin bonsai to be shown off to its fullest. Okay, which is basically getting a variety of styles, shapes, species into a display with a variety of different pots. Okay. Now it does follow quite a prescriptive pattern, but it's really the small differences between what are considered to be good displays and what are considered to be great displays. Okay. And being able to see this and understand this requires a discerning eye, study and practice. But if you want to win the award for the best 80 centimetre rack at a major exhibition, then you have to understand the conventions that the majority of the Shohin bonsai world have agreed upon of what makes up a successful display. If you want to win an award for the most artistic Shohin display, then you need to find an exhibition that has one, or you need to create an exhibition that has one, or simply just do it for your pleasure at home. Okay, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. Okay, but how do you go about learning anything to do with display? Because it's quite hard to learn to be artistic. Now, the thing to do really is to look at as many high quality bonsai displays, high quality bonsai as possible, with an open eye and an open mind, and ask yourself, do I like it? Why do I like it? What makes it work? And what does each element bring to the whole? Okay, because a successful display is one where the whole is so much greater than the sum of its individual parts. Okay? And you can have an incredible tree, an amazing tree which gets lost in a terribly put together display. And you can take an average tree and elevate it to an incredibly high level through a thoughtfully put together display, where the character and the feel of each item in the display has been thought about, considered, and put together, arranged spatially in such a way as that they all work together in harmony to elevate the character of the tree. Okay. Try not to look at things through like a technical perspective, or to go through a predetermined checklist as to what it does have, or it doesn't have a scroll, so therefore it's not correct, but rather to look at it and to feel. Okay. How does this make me feel? Okay. Really, it all sort of comes down to thinking about your bonsai in an artistic way. Thinking about your trees, stands, pots, etc. All of these things from an artistic way. They're looking at their character, the movement, the space, identifying what makes those things special, and using all of them together in order to amplify the character of the tree. That is what will create an epic display. Okay. Should there be more leniency in bonsai display? Should there be more experimentation in bonsai display? Yes, 100%, absolutely. Will it work all of the time? Absolutely not. Okay, a lot of it will be complete rubbish, but some of it will be amazing. And without trying, nothing new will ever be discovered. Okay.